everyone, today I thought I would make a video about supply teaching, and I know on this channel I typically talk about author stuff. However, if you follow me on social media, you'll know that a couple of days a week I work as a supply teacher or a cover teacher. So I do agency supply, and I also have two schools that I work for directly. So I worked at them before as a classroom teacher, and then when I left I stayed on so they can use me for cover. So I would call that cover teaching. I actually work at the school. You might wonder what this video could have to do with you. You might be watching this as an author or a small business owner, as most of my audience are, thinking, why am I watching this? Well, I'm going to go into all of the different facets of supply teaching, but you may not know that you can be a supply teacher without being a qualified teacher. It's a lot better to be a qualified teacher, but it can be a good option if you have that skill set and you're not qualified. It's a job that you can do and you might not realise that you can do it. And I'm going to go into all of the different pros and cons and how you get into it and the things you might want to think about. So it could be relevant to you. I want to recognise as well that most authors, small business owners, creative business owners, we often do have to work a second job in order to fulfill our financial obligations while we're growing our business, or in fact, you might always need to do that in order to pay for your lifestyle and your family and all of those things. So this might be an option for that second job that you hadn't thought about that could work for you. So as I say, I'm going to go through, first of all, pros and cons. Then I'm going to go through, how to become a supply teacher. And then last of all, just any kind of what might you need to bring with you, what you need to do to prepare. I realise also that some people watching this video might be people who are thinking about starting supply teaching. Hello, if you're new to my channel, when I started supply teaching, I also watched content looking at what kind of things I needed to think about. So I hope this is helpful for you too. And do feel free to subscribe if you like some bookish content, because that's what I typically do. Right, let's get into it. So, number one pro for being a supply teacher is the flexibility. So you can choose, depending on your life, and it can change, what's going to work for you. So it might be that you actually have set days every week that you want to work, and you say to your agency, right, I'm going to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday every week, and they find you a school for those days. Or it might be that they can actually find you a short-term placement or long-term placement somewhere where you're there for weeks. So you're not always at a different school every day. It might suit you to know where you're going, to have set days and kind of be a bit more organised in that way. Or you can have fairly random days. So for example, how it works for me is that my agency texts every week and I text back to say what days I can do that week and how I travel, because then they can look at whether I can get to the schools they're offering me, and then they'll call me to offer me a school. So for instance, this week I said I can do one out of Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, and I drive. So they'll get back to me. Today was one of the days when I could have been working, but they haven't got back to me yet. So I'll be chasing up for a job tomorrow, because that's the last day that I can do this week. I personally need to have that pre-booking. So if I'm going to work tomorrow, I need to know today. That's because I need to sort out childcare. So I need to get them into breakfast club. I need to arrange someone who can pick the kids up from school. There's no way of doing it without doing that. So I need to know ahead of time, but I'm flexible week on week. Unfortunately, I have grandparents, so my parents and my husband's parents, who are also really flexible and happy to do that for us. So I'm very grateful. The school also offers really flexible wraparound care. So I just have to make some phone calls to make sure everything's okay, and then get back to them and go, yeah, I can do it. Alternatively, it can be far more ad hoc. You can have it where they literally phone you up. So they might phone you at 6:30, 7 in the morning and say, can you come in today? And you go, yeah, sure. And so you literally don't know until the day. I used to do that. I find it a little bit stressful because my mornings look very different if I'm going into a school in terms of what time I get up, what I wear, like stuff like that. And so, but for some people who, particularly if you don't have like many children at home like I do, then that might work better for you. And at that time, my husband could take over getting the kids to school, and now he can't, so I have to have that element of planning. My point in all of this, and I know I'm quite a wordy wizard, I've read too much Mr. Men lately, that you have the options to be as flexible as you can be and make it fit around your life, which is why I think that even if you are not a qualified teacher, you're a creative or a small business owner, and you're looking for a job to go aside that, you still might be interested. This feeds into my second point, which is money. So it's handy to be paid for a flexible job and be paid well. If you worked in a shop, for example, you can't just work whatever days, and these 0-hour contract things can be really, like, they just let you go, they don't care. So you have that opportunity to be paid for a day's work and also have that flexibility. I think that's fantastic. Something to consider, however, is that as a qualified teacher, so I should have said at the beginning, I am a secondary biology teacher. I qualified in 2009, and I took a career break between 2018 and like 2022, I think, while my youngest was little and while I started my business. So I'm a well-qualified and experienced teacher. So I get paid more than somebody who's an unqualified teacher. So it might not be so financially beneficial if you don't have that same level of qualification and experience. There is an element as well, sometimes the pay can be negotiated on. So particularly if you are known for being very good. So when you go into a school, the agency get a review from the school. It doesn't go the other way around, but the agency get a review. And if you always get really positive feedback, they may be able to go to schools and be like, hey, we're sending you Emma, and she's our best one. This is how I imagine the conversation going. And they're like, wow, we'll pay £1 million for her. It's not £1 million. Yeah, sometimes they can negotiate better rates, or sometimes when it's things like, say, a private school and they have a longer day, you get paid a bit more. It can vary. Sometimes the agencies have preferred schools, and they've negotiated that you get a little bit more pay because that school is exclusive with that agency. So there's flexibility within the pay, but if you contact an agency, they can give you an idea of what the pay might be. But I think being able to be paid fairly for a job that realistically is 8:30 till 3:30, and you can do whenever you want, that's a good thing. It's a good deal. The final positive really is that you are working with young people, and if that's what you like to do, which obviously as a qualified teacher, it's why we do it, doing a job that we enjoy and we're good at, win-win, absolutely brilliant. What a privilege to get to work with, thousands of young people over the county, and yeah, it's good. It's a good thing. Negatives. Do you know what? I've already filmed this video and I already had the negatives, but it corrupted and I've had to start again. What were my negatives? Number one, you can't guarantee that you'll be placed. So for instance, this week, it's the first week of term, and so not so many teachers are off sick, and I typically find I don't get as much work in the first week. I will push for something tomorrow, but I might not get anything. So although you might say, oh, I'll work 2 days a week, you might not be offered 2 days a week. Alongside that, you might be offered jobs that you don't want. So for instance, I don't work in primary schools. I do as an author, but not as a teacher. Sorry if you can hear my chickens. And so if I'm offered primary, I'm going to say no. It might be that certain schools are not the one for you. You might have worked there before and you don't want to work there for all sorts of reasons. You might be too far away. There are loads of reasons why you might say no to a school. And so although they had jobs available, you don't want to do them. So you can't guarantee that you will work the days that you've said. And that might mean that when you are offered good stuff, you need to take advantage of it. By the same token, the holidays obviously mean that money can be a little bit lumpy. So if you've got a month that has got a holiday in it, you're not going to earn as much, or in the summer you're not going to earn anything. And whilst that kind of works for me because that's how my working life is anyway because of the children, if you don't have kids and you're able to work anytime, having those enforced periods that you can't work might be frustrating. Another negative related to that is the fact that you do have to be quite pushy. Another negative related to that is that you do have to be quite pushy. The agencies are going to try to get you to work. You know, they might call you on a day that you said you were unavailable because they just really need to fill a vacancy. So they might chance it. And obviously that sometimes might pay off for them, but sometimes it might not. And they might offer you schools that are not your thing, just in case you'll do it. So I still get offers for schools that they know aren't going to be appropriate. You know, it's not within my experience and skill set. And I'm going to say no, but obviously there might be that day where I say yes, so they're going to try. You do have to be pushy and say, no, I'm really sorry, I am unavailable today, or no. For example, for me, I don't work in primary schools as a teacher. I work in primary schools as an author, but not as a teacher. Or yeah, whatever it might be, that you're just not willing to do it. And for certain personality types, like I find it quite difficult. And when you're being offered work, they're like, we will pay you to do this thing. And you say, no, that's quite hard. So yeah, bear in mind that you will have to be quite sure about what you do and don't want to do. And I had one agency at one time that I worked for who kept on phoning me on days I was unavailable. And I kept saying there was a particular time when I was unavailable for a long time because I was on a longer placement. And they kept calling me and saying it's on the off chance. And I was like, I've told you I'm unavailable, and had to keep phoning them to say, please put on my records, do not call me at the moment. And then they'd call me again and I'd be like, ah. So yeah, you do have to be quite bolshy, and maybe that's something you're comfortable with and maybe it's not. My final negative is around kind of what's going on in education at the moment. There is a staffing crisis. Many schools don't have enough teachers, and you know, there are some schools that will be getting a lot of supply in, and the children might have supply almost all day. So they haven't got teachers who they're familiar with the rules, they know them, they have a personal relationship with them, they feel secure and supported. They just have like a stream of random people coming in, and they will chance it. You'll hear the, we've got a sub, as they come up to the door. And what that means is that there is a knock-on effect in their behaviour. They will test you, of course they will. And in some schools where they have a lot of supply, that's more of an issue than in others. And it very much depends on the culture of the school as well, like how supported you are, how well set up it is for you coming in as an external supply person. You know, what information and resources you've been given, whether it's a school where someone pops around every now and again to make sure you're okay, or it's just a go on, off you go, go teach. So, and obviously your level of experience comes into that as well, and how secure you feel, and how good the cover is, what work you've been left. So there's this whole kind of realm of, you know, just how things are in some of the schools that you go into where they've got a lot of staff absence or vacancies, and they're sort of really struggling, and everyone's really busy and overworked, and the kids are playing you up. And again, some people really happy to do that. Other people, particular schools might just not feel comfortable. It's my opinion that it's always worth giving a school a go once if I'm offered. Sorry, my battery went. I don't know if that's straight. Anyway, where was I? If I'm offered a school that I haven't worked at before, I'll have a look on their website, find out a little bit about them. I might read their Ofsted report, get a feel for the school. I'll say always treat everything with a pinch of salt. I work at some schools that have less favourable Ofsteds, or that on paper don't look amazing, but actually I really like working there. I always think it's worth giving a school a go, try it, spend a day there, see how you feel, and they might go on your list for, yes, I'd love to work there, or they might go on your list for, please don't offer me that school again. We all have preferences. It doesn't really mean anything about that school. It's just that's not the one for me, and it's okay to say that. I have schools where I say, don't offer me that one. Or schools where I say I'll only go in every now and again because it's quite hard work and I don't want to do it all the time. And that's fine. You do have to be quite sure about what you want and firm about what you want. So I think that sort of sums it up by and large. If you think it sounds appealing, give it a go. You don't lose anything by trying it. What I will say as well, I do think that there's an element of knowing that you are an external person being sent in, and that if you feel unsafe, unsupported, you don't have to be there. You can call your agency and say, I'm sorry, but this is terrible and I really don't want to be here. And whilst obviously they're going to encourage you to stay, if you really are unhappy and don't feel right being there, then they will help you to navigate that. I have never walked on a school, but I think knowing that you could almost makes you not, but that it gives you that sense of, do you know, I don't have to be here. I'll maybe get through the day, but I'm not going to come again, because I suppose it's that difference where if you work for someone, you know, a company, whether it's a school or otherwise, and you're unhappy, you feel like you have to just go in. This is another positive, I guess. But with supply, if you're unhappy, you have that element of going, do you know what, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to come tomorrow, so, you know. And I see that as a positive. I don't have to feel like, oh, I've got a contract I've got to work out, or my contract is one day. And if I've got a longer contract and I'm not happy, I can terminate my contract. And that kind of power is a really good thing as well, that I could have mentioned in the positives, and I didn't. Right, let's get on to what you do if you'd like to be a supply teacher, and then I will finish with what you might need. So if you think you might like to try supply teaching, contact a few agencies. They usually have a form on their website, and just fill in a bit of information about your experience. Have you got teaching qualifications? What are those? Where do you work? You know, have you worked with children before? All that kind of stuff. Try and give them information. They do tend to get back to you very quickly because they really need staff. So when you hear back from them, you then go through a process of joining that agency. It will involve filling in loads of forms with your personal details and your qualifications and your experience. They'll want to see evidence of your qualifications as well. You'll need to do a DBS application so that they can check your criminal record. I realised, I was like, your criminal record? I don't have a criminal record. I've got several DBSs for various different things that I do. Yeah, you'll do a DBS, and what other checks will they do? You'll have to fill in sort of all the banking, financial, that stuff as well, so they can pay you. So they will guide you through their process. Different agencies have different processes. Now, it might be that you decide to join more than one agency. You are entitled to do that. I did that at first, which meant that I found the agency that I like the best, and they're the ones that I'm with now. You don't have to stay with any particular agency. You can move if it's just not working for you. They all have pros and cons. They pay slightly differently. They have contacts with slightly different schools. So it might be you like a particular school and their favoured agency is this one, and so you work with them. If you work with more than one agency, then you don't talk to the agencies about what bookings you're getting from the other one, because that can cause problems, politics, that just, you don't do it. And they should tell you, you don't do it. You don't talk about anything to do with where you've been, what the experience has been. You just keep those things separate. But you can say to one agency, sorry, I'm working with another agency at the moment, I'm unavailable. I did have one agency that were annoyed with me that I was with someone else, and were like, we could find you enough work. And I was like, cool story, but I like being with more than one. So again, that goes back to the mercenary. You know, you have the power in your court for what you can do, and they're trying to fill vacancies that end and match you up with the best jobs. So you are entitled to say, no, I'm going to work this way, either like it or don't. That sounds like I'm kind of horrible. I'm like, hey, I'm not, but you know, you do have that control for how you want things to work. That's yours. And really, that's kind of it. It does take a little while because the DBS needs to come through. As soon as all the paperwork is done, they'll want references as well. Once you've got all of that, you've shown them your certificates of your qualifications, all the things they've asked for, they'll then start offering you work. They should give you some kind of guidance of what they expect from you. So you should, particularly if you haven't worked in education, so they should let you know things like what you're expected to wear, what time you're meant to get there, what you need with you, and they may even talk to you a little bit about classroom management, what you typically do in a lesson, and what like do's and don'ts. I hear stories sometimes of things that supply teachers have done because they don't realise that you can't do that, you know. So they should hopefully give you some guidance on what's considered appropriate and, you know, just how to do your job, basically. And if you're unsure, you can always refer back to them. So I've occasionally gone to them to check what time do I need to get to this school because it's an unusual school and I think they have a different start time, or can I just double check the dress code for this school because do they not have a stricter policy? Or so you can always check with your agency and they may go back to the school to check things for you. But basically that's it, and they'll start to send you to schools. And you go to the school, you are typically paid, I suppose this is a positive, more regularly than once a month. You may get paid weekly or bi-weekly, not necessarily though. So if you are, it's a bonus, you get the money quicker than in a regular job. And you might have to fill in some kind of online timesheet or check a timesheet. So do keep a record of where you've gone and when, but typically they have a record of it. And just check your pay because mistakes are easy. And it might have been that you went somewhere last minute and they didn't keep a record of it. So just be aware of what you should be being paid and check it. And yeah, that is pretty much it. Just find and literally just Google some agencies working in your area or call a school and say, hi, what agencies do you work with? Brilliant. And then contact them, get on their books, job done. If you don't like it, try a different agent. So what I'm going to finish with is things you might need, just some helpful tips if you are new to doing this. If you're a teacher, like, you know what you need. So whenever you go for a day's supply, you need your DBS certificate and ID. Most schools will check it. They should all check it, but occasionally they don't. But you need to have that with you so that they can okay you being there. So that's your bare minimum. Have with you anything you think you might need for the day. Sometimes you're offered lunch, but usually not. So have some food with you. You could go to the canteen. You're not normally allowed off-site. So if you're happy to just go to whatever canteen they have, cool. If you're not and you don't want that time like with the kids, because for me, lunchtime is a chance for me to just be, take some food with you. They might let you know that you're given a lunch. Great. I've worked at some schools where you being in the lunch hall and having lunch with the children is expected and your break is at a different time. So yeah, but typically just take a lunch with you and then you're safe. Take water, whatever drinks you want with you. Take a mug. Might even go so far as, depending on how fussy you are, whatever tea or coffee you want to drink, if you don't want to just chance whatever they have. Yeah, and take the mug because they might not have a mug you can borrow. Maybe take a spoon. I've worked in schools where I can't find a spoon and I've had to like pour from a thing, so it's rare but it happens, so you could take a spoon. You could carry milk. It's been known that there's no milk, so the tea and coffee making facilities can be questionable. It depends how important that is to you as to what you take with you. So yeah, make sure you've got food and drink with you, anything you might need to be comfortable. I always think it's handy to have a book. You might end up where they're doing an exam. You often don't have access to the computer, so you might not even be able to sit there and watch BBC News. Read BBC News. You're certainly not allowed to go on your phone. That's a big no-no. You can have it with you, but you can't check your phone in lessons. I would say with the slight exception of very occasionally you might need to do some kind of logging in that requires you doing like an authentication code. You know, you might just really need It's very rare because you really shouldn't use your phone. Very, very occasionally you might need to use it. But other than that, other than like literally a quick, right, there's my authentication code, or, oh, that's my login for this site we need to use, or something like that, you should not be touching your phone. So yeah, you could get stuck where you're just sitting while they do a test or something. So stick a book in your bag. Always handy to have, or, you know, crosswords or something if you want. Have something you can do. Break and lunch as well. You might not want to talk to anyone, or there might be no one around to talk to. So something to do is handy. Really, that's pretty much all that's all you need. Handy things. Board markers, sometimes you can't find them in the classroom you're in. So having a couple in your bag is helpful. Spare pens or pencils. Really helpful because they always don't have pens or pencils, and you might rummage through desk drawers and not find anything. So they'll refuse to do any work if they can't write. You know, they might not want to or be able to borrow from a classmate. So pens and pencils, you will lose them, get cheap ones. What else might you want on you? Other things, calculator might be handy, highlighters might be handy. Again, be aware, you might end up lending them, you might lose them. Things like that. Put your name on it, you're less likely to lose it, but just be aware. It might go, many things do. Some kind of notebook, note paper is helpful as well. That will get you through most eventualities, I think, in terms of things you could need. It can be handy, I don't do this, but you could, to have some kind of word search, crossword, something like that, that's just in your bag, so that if no cover has been set, you can give them that. Or just an activity up your sleeve. So I have some quizzes on a memory stick that I can use. So if you've got nothing, you can go, okay, we've got something to do while I sort this out. So again, just something, I mean, it could even be that you just tell them to make a poster about something, but a task you can give them. Very occasionally you don't get left any work. Right, the very last thing that I wanted to mention before I finish this quite rambly video, and I do apologise that it's been quite rambly, hopefully it's been helpful. Just wanted to mention dress code. They should give you specifics, but teacher dress code is going to be office wear, pretty much. With a few caveats. So men would be expected shirt, trousers, tie would be advisable, not trainers. That pretty much is male dress code. Wear a jacket if you want. Tie can be a bit, but some schools insist on it, so it's do as you will. If you maybe have one in your bag, just in case they go, we do wear ties here. Bear in mind that if the children are wearing ties, really the teachers should. The male teachers should. Right, female dress code tends to be a lot more relaxed. So I'd say smart office wear, but for all teachers, you need to think about what is appropriate. So the rules I've always gone by, not thin straps. So for instance, with this, I would have a top underneath like I've got. So no spaghetti straps, nothing low cut. No short skirts like knee length or below, shoes you can walk around in all day, and layers because the temperature can be a little bit up and down. So be prepared for that fact. It can be really, really hot, so you might want to have quite sort of loose, airy clothing, and then a smart jacket or a nice cardi, like something you can put on if it's chilly, because sometimes there's aircon. You can never know. I've had it where I've been there in, warm weather, 15, 16 degrees outside, and the heating's on and you're sweating, or there is no heating and it's January. So just be prepared with options. Have a coat with you in case you end up outside, because it could be a lesson outside, could be PE, could be you're walking somewhere. So just be prepared for all cold and hot requirements. So layers are good, and yes, just appropriate office wear. It would be very frowned on to wear anything inappropriate, basically. So yeah, that's pretty much it, I would say. So I hope that this was helpful. Let me know if this is something you do or you would like to do or you are signed up to doing. Let me know if this was something you hadn't considered but you might now look into it. I really enjoy it. There are good days and bad days, but it's really fun and it works so well with my business, and I'll keep doing it for quite a while. So please hit like if you found that helpful. Don't forget to leave me a comment. It's always nice to chat to you guys, and subscribe if you like the usual author bookish stuff that I usually post. Take care.